Hi, Thrand here, and I'm back with the Lord of the Rings sword from Medieval Shoppe. This is Boromir sword. It's a replica Boromir sword. We've used it in another video. We have our main video where we tested on our Auric head that I made. It worked wonderfully. It cut the skull in half as it was the claymore. It cut as well as the claymore. For a 4-pound sword that doesn't weigh almost 6-7 pounds, and the weight is heavy, it performed extremely well. But there's been a question. People have been asking me, a lot of our good fans, how does it perform one-handed? Could this sword be used with a shield? Everybody knows that in Tolkien's world, Boromir's sword was used with a lenticular round shield, smaller than an early Germanic shield or a Viking style shield, probably not used in the same way. They were held directly out in front of you and you could fight from around it, and it kind of rocked as things hit it and you push stuff out of the way. And these big quillions would work great with that. I'm a little skeptical of how they'll work with this type of shield. I played around with it. We're going to test it out. It doesn't seem to brace as well if you have to brace from behind. You could use it to brace with if you ever have to brace, which isn't done often. A lot of times a blade's used or something to hold the shield for a second if you need it. A lot of times it's just lifted as necessary while you're fighting. In my style, and really more Zeka style, that's what we do. It doesn't seem to get in the way as much as I thought it would. I've been playing around with it. The only thing I could see is possibly if you get in the way, if you tried to thrust and you didn't realize this was in the way or something and you just swung and came back or something, you might hit your arm or something with it. But that's because the shield has to be in certain positions at certain times to defend you or you'll be open and hit. The shield was the primary defense at this time period, and even in Blosfection and unarmored combat, with this type of shield, the cast blow worked fine when you throw shots out with such a heavy sword like this would be in the 13th century. It was fine because the sword was totally offensive. You didn't need to defend with it or use shrimp slack or screening cuts like you do in Hema. Like in Hema, you'd have to use this in that way, single sword. So if you try to say using this single sword would be good, I'd probably say no. I think it would be a better hand and a half because of the control and the weight of it. It would make up for that, and that acts as your counterbalance and allows you to use it to its fullest with the maximum speed and recovery. And this does have a lot of weight. This is 4 pounds. This is not like some later century longswords that were lighter than that. This is definitely a bastard sword, a war sword used to fight people in full armor when you were using flexible armors like mail and gambesons and such. We're going to do some tests today. We're going to do some thrusting. We're going to do some cutting one-handed with and without the shield and see what we think. I mean, it doesn't seem as bad as I would think, but with a lenticular round shield or a smaller round, it would be fine with a heater shield, with a kite shield. That's why you see a lot of the Norman swords later century with the big old quillions, because they started using the sword to defend with as well if they had to. If they had to, they would use sword binds, and so on. I honestly do. I believe they would use them because you can. I mean, a lot of times with the shield is the primary defense, especially early period. They didn't even wear armor sometimes. Maybe a light Hjalmar, and they used a skjaldur, and that was their primary defense. This is their primary offense. But let's go ahead and try it out and see how well it works one-handed. Oh!
There you go.
I think we got exactly what we wanted. You see how fast that sword could cut. And I'm going to be honest, I tried a couple of times to get the exact effect, but we pulled it off. I was able to cut through this bottle and come back through this bottle. But without using a back edge, if it wasn't a double-edged blade, I don't think that would have been possible with that type of cut. You wouldn't have had the speed of recovery. But as for one-handed, yes, you most certainly can use it one-handed like they said in the book, and I know this is based on the artwork. It may not be exactly what Tolkien had in mind, but it's a beautiful sword, excellent reproduction for the movie, so, I mean, except for that's a smaller, fuller, which gives it a little more weight, which I think is great because it's much more like a 13th century design sword than a later century longsword. It's something that would be used against flexible armors like mail and gambesons, and possible shields as well, and maybe use one hand and a half to get extra power. Beautiful. Not bad at all. All right, I'm going to try that exact same cut with the shield. The thing about the shield, a lot of times when you're cutting, you use the shield at maximum distance and reach out. So I could be like this cutting from behind it. See how much reach I've got. It's difficult to get through something while you're doing it and actually have it work correctly. What I'm trying to say is you might not have the reach you think you do out in front of the shield. you know, you might only have so much, which might not be enough to get through the bottle with something like this in the way per se. A lot of times this would be in the way of your enemy, go into his arm or his elbow bend, what have you. So I want to try this, but it's not going to be exactly easy to get the effect we want. Make sure we can cut it and see if we can cut both of them. The shield will cause a little bit of a problem, but I mean, that's what the price of defense is. Oh, a little bit slower there, but I caught this one as it was falling and cut a piece of it off. Not quite the same as before, but we were still able to do it. And we got a clean cut through the other bottle at a slightly different angle because I was using a shield, which causes me to have to come up at a little higher angle. Not too bad. Oh! Not shabby at all. Oh. It has a good thrust one-handed, so I can't see that being a problem with the shield. Or if you were in a single combat trying to use it to thrust with, to parry and thrust with, the thrust is quite nice, especially with this ridged grip. So, and the balance isn't that far off. So. Oh, beautiful. Not too bad. Nice clean cut at the top. Now, I would say with a shield, like the old Viking shield, you could use it. Like we confirmed from watching what we did today, the lenticular shields, of course, they'd be less in the way and they're used differently. They're just moved in the way of the other opponents. That's why they're so curved and domed or held in close and stuff glances off, and you wear lots of armor with them. They'd increased in armor when they went to the smaller lenticular shields that held the center boss that way. So they relied a lot on their armor to stop a lot of the back edge cuts and stuff that might come around that don't have quite as much power. But early century, when they're using shields like this to stop their back edge cuts and stuff, yes, it might get in the way sometimes, but it seemed to perform all right. As a one-handed sword, I think it performed very well for a almost 4-pound sword. It's 3-point-something pounds, 3.75 or something. It's almost 4 pounds. Performed very well. I was impressed with its ability to actually cut and come back and recover quickly. It was still able to cut, have enough speed behind it to do so. We've seen it perform very well hand and a half, and today we got to see it one-handed. Did what I could do with it, tested it out in speed, and I would say yes, you could use it with this type of shield if you had to. Do I think that's what it'd primarily be for? No, I think it's like a heavy blade. It's like a 13th century blade, like something you'd find a Type 13 that was used hand and a half. Not a one-handed sword, but a hand and a half sword, and I think it would be used one or two-handed to go against mail or something where you could pound on somebody if you had to and use the actual weight for extra damage, because it has a lot of momentum behind it, behind the blade haft. But anyway, I think it's a very good blade, great reproduction, and I want to do something. This is Yule, or Christmas, and our cameraman today is Marquez, and he's worked hard with us. He helped me make the molds for our ballistics gelatin heads. He's donated refrigerators to keep the ballistics gelatin in. I mean, he's helped me with videos. I've been my best friend since elementary school. We just went and saw the new Star Wars movies the other day. It was actually very good. I don't want to give any spoilers on that, but the episode 7 is excellent. But I wanted to make a presentation. He's admired this sword in the videos. And believe it or not, Marquez, this is yours for Christmas. You get the Lord of the Rings sword. And thank you so much for helping me do the video.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks. But hope you all enjoyed it. Be sure and like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to our channel. Be sure and go by our Facebook page, the Thrand and Marquez Well of Remembrance, and like us there. That's our like page. We also have our private group, so to speak. We pretty much welcome all comers as long as they get along with everybody and have a good Viking sense of humor, so to speak. You come by to the Thrand YouTube boat crew, spelled T-H-E-G-N, Thrand, and join us. We'd surely like to have you. Discuss all kinds of things about history. You can also help us out at PayPal. and that's Thrand@yahoo.com. If you want to get a hold of me there, that's also the PayPal ID, or send me an email there if you want to donate something, like a lot of people do. And also you can help us through Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Thrand. And you can help us out there monthly if you like. And if I can, and you donate enough, we'll try to send you something from the set if we can. Like to give gifts out to people. It's an old Viking tradition, or Scandinavian tradition. And that's primarily a lot of my reenactment that I do. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. And the assessment, I will say, because everybody's going to want to know the final verdict, yes, it will work with a shield. Do I think that's what it was primarily designed for? Probably not what they have in mind, even though it's a fantasy design. I think it would be, like I said, much better, the extra hand and a half to it if you were using it against male armor, like where they had full harnesses of mail. That's what I would assume it's for. But with a shield, if you had to use a shield against arrows and stuff, I would definitely use it one-handed from behind a shield in that situation if I had that kind of armor on, maybe a lenticular shield, a smaller shield. I doubt they'd still be using the Viking shields in that era because it was so late. Although some of the Normans may have still done it. We do have some drawings that suggest that, other than the Bayou shield. But by then they'd gone to the kite shield. But it's a good fantasy blade that has a lot of characteristics of a late century longsword and an early century Type 13. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Come back and keep watching our channel, and farewell and happy Yule.